Have you ever like finished a trading session and you looked at your trade history and wondered who the heck placed these trades? And it didn't feel like you. Like you saw an entry, you took an entry that wasn't part of your plan. You had a position size that was twice as large as you should have been, and there was a stop loss that got moved, and then got moved again, and eventually there was no more stop loss, right? And then you see the revenge trade happen, the trade you placed immediately after losing, not because your setup appeared, but because you wanted your money back. And then when the session ended, you feel like a loser. You felt so embarrassed, like maybe even disgusted with yourself. And you promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. That tomorrow you finally be disciplined, and tomorrow you finally follow your rules, and tomorrow you finally feel like you're gonna be trading the person who you wanted to be. Maybe you do that for a day or two, you might, but then you take another loss. Price moves without you, and then you feel that familiar pressure building inside your chest, and before you know it, it happens. You're back inside that exact same pattern. And why does this keep happening? It isn't because you're not smart. It isn't because you don't understand risk management. It's probably not because you need another strategy. The real problem is that you're trying to change years of emotional conditioning. Though through one moment of motivation, you're trying to win a long psychological war in a single trading session. No, you can't do that. But there's another way to change this. And I'm probably not going to say it right, but it's a Japanese philosophy called Kaizen. Kaizen means continuous improvement through small, repeated actions. Let me say it again. Kaizen means continuous improvement through small, repeated actions. Not dramatic transportations. No, not dramatic transformations. Transportation of yourself to the person who you want to be, right? And it's not going to change your life tomorrow, but like one small improvement every single day. And that one small improvement, repeat it long enough to become who you want to be. And when you apply this idea to trading, it can help you break the destructive habits that willpower alone that you can never ever fix. Like you can't willpower your way to success. Like you got to start building good habits. And why do you lose control after a trade? So to understand how Kaizen works, you need to first understand what happens inside after a loss, right? So imagine this. So you just took a completely valid setup, right? That was your trading plan. You followed your entry rules. You place your stop correctly. You place your target. But a few moments later, price hits your stop. Logically, this is normal, right? It's a game of probability. And no strategy wins every single trade. But emotionally, your mind don't always process it that way. And then there's that voice start talking to yourself saying, oh, you entered too early, or maybe you should have seen that coming, or, the market tricked you. They hunted your stop loss. And now you got that voice even louder saying that you need to get that money back. And guess what? The price begins moving in the direction you originally expected, right? Now that voice becomes even more louder. Say, enter again. It's going to go without you. You got to change that green. This is your chance to recover that loss. Your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, your attention narrows, and suddenly, you're no longer evaluating the market. You're trying to escape the discomfort that you put yourself in. See, that distinction is everything, because many bad trading habits aren't really attempts to make money. They're attempts to change how you feel at that moment. You see, you revenge trade because taking action temporarily removes the feeling of helplessness, right? You move your stop loss because accepting a loss feels so painful, and then you chase price because sitting still while the market moves without you, it's just so unbearable. Like you can't go with it. And this behavior creates a few seconds of emotional relief. And you see, that's the problem. And that relief often creates a much larger trading problem. And this is why simply telling yourself, oh, I just got to be disciplined, that don't really work. See, when you're calm, discipline sounds easy. But when your nervous system feels attacked, the emotional part of your brain can overpower the plan you created yourself, right? The plan that you created to protect your capital. But when your emotional brain takes over, you can't do that. So instead of trying to eliminate the emotions, Kaizen gives us a more realistic goal, to create a gap between the emotion and the action. So here's a 30-second doorway. See, bad trading habits usually don't control you every minute of the session, right? They appear at very specific moments. Maybe after a loss, after a missed trade, after a big winning trade, or even when the market becomes slow and boredom starts to take over. See, those moments are like doorways, because before you walk through the doorway, you still have control. But once you react automatically, then the slide begins. One impulsive entry becomes another, then another. One move stop turns to a completely revenge trade. And one manageable loss, right? That one loss or two losses that you set for yourself, the limit becomes a daily limit violation. And the most important moment may not be the trade itself. It may be the first 30 seconds after the trade ends. And this is where we introduce the smallest possible interruption. So imagine a trader who has struggled with revenge trading for years, and after every losing trade, his new rule is stand up, walk away from the desk, take a sip of water, and that's it. Don't even look at the charts. I know that sounds simple and crazy, ridiculous, but that simple thing, that simple action that you're doing, how could like a sip of water fix revenge trading? You see, it doesn't. The water is not the solution. The interruption is. You see, when you interrupt yourself, go into that behavior of cycle of your habit, the destructive habit, like for example, like standing up removes your hand from the mouse, walking away breaks your visual connection with the chart. That physical movement interrupts the emotional momentum, pushing you towards another trade. You see, you may still feel angry, right? You're human. You may still want the money back, and absolutely. But there's no space between what you feel and what you want to do. And inside that space, you have a choice. You see, you don't need to force yourself to become calm. Like you only need to stand up. You only need to eliminate, like you don't need to eliminate that anger and the anger. And the only way to delay your response, and that delay maybe 10 seconds. But sometimes 10 seconds is enough to prevent that destructive trade, that destructive circuit of behaviors that's destroying your capital. And that's why you can have tiny rules, because look, at first, a rule this small may feel pointless, but traders are attracted to big solutions, right? A complete new trading plan, a complicated risk management system, maybe a 30-day discipline challenge. Something that feels big and something that feels powerful, but think about how many large promises you've already made to yourself, like, oh, no more revenge trading, like you never move your stop, like, you know, starting Monday, I follow every single rule. Like, how many of those promises survive the moment you feel under stress? Like, every broken promise teaches your mind something. It teaches that your own rules are optional. And over time, that can create a dangerous entity, right? And that lives inside of you. Every single trade session, that dangerous identity can come out. You know, and you start to identify yourself with that. And sometimes you don't even notice. Like you say to yourself unconsciously, like you don't even notice this. Oh, I'm just not a disciplined trader. Oh, you know, I always lose control eventually. I can't trust myself. And Kaizen rebuilds that trust from the bottom up. You see, every time you follow one tiny rule, you create evidence. You take a loss and stand up. That's evidence right there. You count slowly to 5 before even looking at the charts. You want more evidence? You stop after reaching your maximum number of trades. Yeah, more evidence? How about this? Eventually, your actions begin telling a different story. Instead of saying, oh, that you're not a disciplined trader, these actions, these interruptions, like stopping, getting up, taking a sip of water, maybe you tell yourself, I am somebody who can pause. I am somebody who can keep small promises. I am someone who can feel an urge, but without acting on it. See, identity that doesn't change because you repeat an affirmation in the mirror. It changes because your behavior gives you proof, and that continues into a cycle. So you gotta stop before you lose control. And there is another Japanese principle that applies directly to trading. And it's called, and you know, I might not even say it right, but it's called hara hachi bu. And traditionally, it refers to eating until you are roughly 80% full, right? So, but in trading, it means stopping before you are emotionally full or uncontrollable. See, most traders don't destroy an account on the first trade of the day. Yeah, some do, but most don't, right? The real damage comes later, after the 3rd trade, after the 5th, or the 10th trade. You get a few losses. What does that create? Creates frustration. And a few wins can sometimes create overconfidence. You know, your dopamine rises, and your judgment, your critical thinking, like just weakens. And eventually, you're no longer trading the setup. You're just trading your emotional state. And stopping at 80% means walking away while you still feel capable of continuing, right? So, like, you just need to make that pause. And maybe you normally take 6 or 7 trades in a session, and your new rule could be a maximum of 3, right? So when a third, like for example, like let's say that you made your 3rd trade, just close your computer, right? That's it. And part of you will resist, and you'll think, oh, but what if there's another opportunity for me to make money? You know what? That may be true, but there will always be another opportunity. Your capital and your emotional capacity, they're limited. That's the difference. See, Hara Hachibu teaches you to stop before the session takes over everything from you. Not after you're exhausted, not after you violated every rule before. And guess what? Like, you're still going to make mistakes no matter what. And now here's the important truth though. Kaizen will not make you perfect. You're still going to have emotional days. You still enter too early sometimes, and you might break a rule here and there. But this is where another Japanese concept becomes useful, wabi-sabi. You know, wabi-sabi recognizes that imperfection is part of life. And in trading, it means that accepting that mistakes are part of development without using those mistakes as permission to self-destruct. Like, you gotta forgive yourself sometimes as long as you're advancing, right? You see, many traders break one rule and think, oh, that's it, fuck it, man, I already ruined the day. And once they believe that their day is ruined, they just stop protecting it. Like, they just go in this outlandish trades. One bad entry becomes 5. One red day becomes one red week. And one mistake becomes an identity. And that identity reflects on your trading results, a losing trader. But one mistake does not erase your progress. The real measure of growth isn't whether you ever lose control, right? It's how quickly you return. So maybe once you stay emotional for like an entire week, but then one trigger just kind of spiral it, lasting it only for like 2 days, right? Then one session. And eventually, maybe you catch yourself after one bad trade. And you didn't become perfect, right? You simply learned to stop the damage sooner. And in trading, that is massive improvement. Because the market rarely destroys you with one small loss. It destroys you through a chain of emotional decisions. See, your job is to break the chain. So here's a challenge for you. Let's call it the 14-day Kaizen challenge. So this is what you're gonna do in your next trading session tomorrow. So first, choose one bad habit, only one. That's it. Let's say revenge trading, moving your stop, or maybe taking random entries, or maybe increasing a size after a loss, or maybe continuing a trade after you realize that like you've done your trade limit for the day. See, don't try to fix everything at once. All right. So second, create an action so small that it feels almost impossible to avoid. Like for example, for revenge trading, like let's say you can make a rule that after every loss, like how we talk about, stand up and take a sip of water. That's it. Maybe for impulsive entries, maybe you can start counting slowly from 1 to 5 before clicking the order button. How about this for moving stops? Take a screenshots immediately after placing the original stop. Like that gives you, like put in your trading journal, right? And just let the trade happen. But that stops you from taking action in the computer, making a dumb mistake. Let's say for overtrading, like set a maximum number of trades and close the platform when you reach it. And third, repeat that one behavior for the next 14 trading days. Don't upgrade it. Like don't add more rules after 3 good sessions. Like keep it simple. Like what you want to do is be successful at this, because every little thing adds up in the future, adds up in the long run. And you know what? At the end of the day, write one sentence. Ask yourself, what promise did I keep today? Like, and don't begin like don't start with your P&L, right? Like don't judge yourself whether the trade worked out or not. But ask yourself, did you follow the behavior that you choose you're going to make or you're going to follow? Because the purpose of these 14 days is not to make more money immediately. It's to prove that you can trust yourself again. You see, you need just that 1 degree of shift to move you in a trajectory farther from where you are going now. So imagine 2 ships leaving the same harbor, right? So one ship changes direction by only 1 degree. At first, that difference, like you can't even notice it. Maybe after an hour, maybe both of the ships, like they still look close together, right? But after 1 day, the separation is small. But after time and time again, after day and day again, weeks, they arrive in a completely different place. And your trading habits works the same way. See, you don't need a complete transformation tomorrow. Like you don't need to do that. You just need that 1 degree shift. One less revenge trade. One stop, you refuse to move. Maybe one session, you stop before becoming emotionally exhausted. And one bad trading day, that doesn't become a bad week. And those trading decisions may look so small in the moment because nobody's going to see them. Nobody's going to congratulate you for refusing a random trade. And nobody's going to applaud you for closing the platform when you hit your limit. But those private decisions are building your trading identity. You see, trading accounts are often destroyed through hundreds of small, destructive choices. And disciplined traders are built through hundreds of small, constructive ones. So the next time you reach that emotional doorway, after a loss, after missing a move, or when you feel overwhelmed that you need to make something happen, like don't try to become a completely different person. Like don't try to win the entire psychological war in that one moment. Just change one thing. Just interrupt that pattern. That's it. That's all you need to do. Stand up, walk away, take a sip of water, keep that one small promise and do it again tomorrow, because eventually discipline, that habit, will become a part of you. That discipline will stop feel like a battle. It will start feeling like it's who you are. And one day, far enough, long-term enough, you look back and realize, you know what? The market didn't change. Your strategy didn't magically become more profitable. It's you who changed. Not because of one massive transformation, but because through small decisions you once believed were too small to matter, you actually made a decision to follow those small rules. So master your mind, master your market. If you like this, give me a follow, like, and subscribe. All right, well, I'll see you later.